Stygian, Reign of the Old Ones, is one of a kind for many reasons. Could be because it excels at Lovecraftian atmosphere and nails the vibe 100%. Could be because of its memorable plot, which goes bananas in the last 15 minutes of the game. Or perhaps, most notably, because of its constraints of budget, leaving the game literally without any kind of ending. Now that's what I call a curse. And it is oh so tragic, because what we have here is, arguably, the best Lovecraftian game of them all. Rarely do we want to watch a TV show that gets cancelled midway. Even rarer still do we want to live in an unfinished building, which I'm no stranger to, due to my lean pockets and sole option to renovate the apartment by myself. But it is incredibly rare to find a game that is so good right until its end part. The only similar experience I could think of would be Indigo Prophecy, or Fahrenheit as it's known worldwide. If you played it, you know what I'm talking about. Back to the subject at hand though. Wow, look at that, a fucking 81 Metacritic score for a game that's missing a part, eh? There must be something wonderful that's underpinning this whole rotten carcass of this unfinished game. Stygian was the first game developed by the studio called Cultic Games, a small indie endeavor based in Turkey. So, this was their gaming debut, which evidently didn't garner much attention from the scene, because I'm 99% sure you've never heard of this game before. And you may still be wondering why it's got such a high score on Metacritic with no ending and all that. So let me explain. Journalists and testers don't usually play the games they review until the very end. They are content with disjointed experiences and are okay with lack of attachment to any medium or work of art. Oof, these people. Imagine living on a constant content treadmill. Gee, I can only guess what that's like. So what happened exactly? Judging from various comments and official posts from the devs, they somehow ran out of Kickstarter money halfway through the development cycle and were faced with a shit sandwich or giant douche kind of dilemma. Either they force an abrupt ending explaining nothing, or leaving the plot on a cliffhanger, overpromising everything. They chose the latter, thinking it would be better to release the game instead of letting it rot in limbo. But here is something to ponder if you're in a good mood though. Check it out. A friend once told me that you love someone not for something, but in spite of everything. And you know, it fucking fits this game so much. The game is flawed and unfinished. It doesn't tie up the loose ends, you get no reward for your trouble, the coding is spaghetti levels of stupid, balancing is out of the fucking window, combat is embarrassingly bad, but in spite all of that, I like this game a lot, and I think you should play it. Because hey, if struggling in overcoming the impossible odds and conquering the bad code while slowly getting insane isn't the best way to experience the racist ramblings of late H.P. Lovecraft, I don't know what is. And so, in spite of everything, our great patience will persevere while playing this patchwork of a game. And hey, since we're at it, I'll give you 5 reasons to play it. I've listed all, I think. Yeah, all negatives. Wait, yeah, all negatives. But what about what makes this dead on arrival game so appetizing? Let's roll the review. I've played a lot, and I mean a lot, of Lovecraftian games. It's possibly one of the few settings I truly like because it's somehow worse than living in Eastern Europe. And because the concept of the unknown cosmic horror sends a shiver to my spine and draws me in hard. Forbidden knowledge has always been the most tempting thing for everyone on this planet for actual thousands of years. And here we are, playing a broken Turkish interpretation of H.P. Lovecraft, and the game is actually amazing. I mean, seriously, what the fuck? One has to start with the most important part this game does well, sanity loss. In a nutshell, Lovecraftian tabletop games a la Arkham Horror or Mansions of Madness focus the gameplay onto characters becoming slowly but surely insane due all of the bullshit he has seen firsthand. You get to lose your sanity in combat and story events, and if it gets too low, you're at risk of gaining various mental disorders, which have their own dialogue options like you're some kind of Malkavian kindred. Imagine that. A+ for effort, some great roleplay to be found here. The game is worth comparing to Dark Corners of the Earth, another exemplary cult classic of Lovecraftian genre. And just like in that game, we have action, puzzles, horror, a solid plot that almost hypnotizes you to explore it further, and my personal favorite, no fucking jump scares! all the dread you get from this game is coming from the atmosphere. This isn't Outlast, thank God. The biggest surprise for me was the fact that the writing is period appropriate and serves as a solid foundation for the mentally unhinged wacky adventures of doom that your party is about to have. Have to be honest, I'm a little jealous of the small Turkish indie game dev studio because they nailed the ye old English so much it makes me blush. Props to them, the mad bastards. Again, this adds up to the immersion, another fine reason to pick up the game. Generally speaking, writing reminded me a lot of Fallout 1 and Arcanum, which means that we're going to get good dialogues, memorable characters, and of course, an attribute to all Lovecraftian games, constant reflections on what it's like to glimpse behind the curtain of flesh and mind and look into the abyss of forbidden knowledge. I'll have some of that, please. Visual design is great, honestly, and that says a lot about the game that was made on a shoestring budget. The artists had an idea and they implemented it wonderfully. It's a hand-drawn 2D wood carving art style, simply mwah. And the vibe itself, oh man, really brings out the most uneasy feeling within you, because it's a horror game, it's supposed to be scary, right? It's like you have worms under your skin, and they, too, have worms under their skin. Am I painting a clear enough picture for you? The soundscape and visuals of the things you're about to see will really bring out the worst of its kind of horror. Lingering, icky dread. So fucking good, I swear to God. Now, do you remember that RPG that rewarded you almost solely for quest completion and not for combat? What was it called? I can't remember. Feels like it's been literal eons ago. I forgot its name. But anyway, the game is like that. It really plays down on the grinding aspect, emphasizing quests that are the real deal in this game. Combat is hardly beneficial, if at all. One tiny problem though, the combat in this game still exists, and it's bad. Sorry to say, but you'll have to... Oh shit, Planescape Torment! That's the game I was thinking of. And check this out. Exploration and role-playing is just as good as in that game. Skill checks, general vibe, incessant talking, I mean, boy, you're really gonna be running your mouth in this game. Pondering on the existence and futility of it, all of that brings us as close as possible to the pantheon of narrative-driven CRPGs. Welcome, welcome. Just forget about the whole curse about no ending thing, will ya? The game is responsive to virtually everything you throw at it. Your belief system formulates and writes the narrative of your character growth, or rather descent into insanity. Skill choices also matter. It's when you can find yourself in a pinch during a random encounter and your skill will be the light in the maddening darkness. Even the fucking fact that you've got a certain weapon or an item equipped on your body may be the deciding factor in some random encounter on the world map. That is insane amount of details. I applaud the devs' tenacity and attention to the world they created. For example, did you know that different skills open up new dialogues and quest solutions? Yeah, just like in Fallout. For example, playing as a detective, I had to shoot up the whole fucking warehouse worth of ghouls. Whereas as an occultist, I can just cast some blood magic and presto, the entire encounter was gone just like that. If only more games would offer us branching quest solutions. That would push us to replay these games more often and be more attentive to details. But alas, I'm forced to make my arduous replay of Fallout New Vegas yet again until I find something similar to it. Oh well. Speaking of details, let me introduce you to the game's character creator. You begin by selecting your character's starting age, which influences both their physical capabilities and the number of skills points available. Younger characters are in peak physical condition but lack experience, resulting in fewer initial skill points. Middle-aged characters offer a balanced mix of strength and intellect but don't excel in either of those. Elderly characters, while physically weaker, start with a wealth of skill points due to their accumulated knowledge. Next, you choose a profession or archetype, which determines your character's skill focus. Archetypes can be selected as they are, or further specialized into one of the three subclasses, each providing unique bonuses, drawbacks, and alternate skill sets. Also, we have to choose a belief system. This is where Stygian really stands out. Your belief system actively rewards you for role-playing in alignment with it. Unlike most games that claim to factor role-playing into progression but offer only token recognition like the rare paladin restrictions in Baldur's Gate or occasional dialogue options from perks like Lady Killer in Fallout, Stygian truly integrates role-playing into its mechanics. Here, your actions in line with your belief system earn tangible rewards. For example, humanitarian characters are rewarded for acts of kindness and aiding others without taking the reward, while those following the esoteric belief gain benefits from probing into others' psychological traumas, driven by a thirst for hidden knowledge, regardless of the emotional cost to others. What I've just described to you is actually playable and executed perfectly. Can you name me, and I'll wait, one other game that does the same thing, and it's executed in a workable fashion? Huh? You may give your answer in the comment section, I'll legit read them all for sure, but now it's time to talk about the worst part of this game. Well, this horrible mess does what my generation does best. Adapting our favorite games mechanics that are 30 years old into games that are flat out inappropriate for them. This is how we got Heroes of Might and Magic combat up in this bitch. However, there are just far too many enemies on the battlefield for me to care. I don't think the devs really optimized combat that much. It could have easily been sped up like 2 or even 4 times the amount. It should have had fewer enemies during encounters, because otherwise I'm forced to spend all my hard-earned money on healing items and every encounter feels like a final boss fight. And I feel that the combat was added simply as an afterthought, out of fear that devs might lose that Call of Duty audience if they don't absolutely insert combat in a game that looks Lovecraftian and feels like Planescape Torment. And we all know that the combat in PST also feels like an afterthought, but there you could at least revive without much trouble, and here it's game over, man. Game over. Bottom line, avoid combat as much as possible. This isn't a game that has a well thought out combat system. You go gain experience from quests, my friend. There is nothing to be found here in Combat Wasteland that is Stygian. Moving on. I mean, have you read Lovecraft? As in the guy who literally called his cat Nick. Hey, while we're on the subject of HP Lovecraft, I would greatly appreciate it if you subscribe before your mind shatters, because I honestly care about you, my friend. It's as they say, don't let the cosmic horrors get you. Smash that like button and subscribe for more videos. The voices are telling you to do this. Anyway, I'll spare you the spoilers. Here's the gist of the matter. So, a year before you wake up in the game, the Old Ones decide that nap time is over and proceed to fuck up planet Earth. A small town of Arkham gets ripped out of reality entirely. Whether that's lucky or not is debatable. The town is now floating in some kind of cosmic nightmare dimension, cut off from the apocalypse, but also, cut off from reality itself, sparing the population from Old One's influence and Logan Paul videos at least. In the ensuing madness of being pulled onto the alien stars, the order in Arkham as we know it collapses. In the resultant chaos, opportunistic organized crime decides to go all gamers rise up, and they now control the poor inhabitants of Arkham. Meanwhile, a fanatical group dedicated to the Cthulhu mythos rises, a secretive and seemingly mad bunch of people that uses dark rites and human sacrifice to appease their masters, and to tear the last remains of reality apart and usher in an age of cosmic dominion. In the midst of all this chaos, the player takes on the role of a solitary Arkham resident, an ordinary person caught in an extraordinary circumstances. Haunted by visions and driven by a need for truth, you begin to follow cryptic clues left behind by a mysterious figure known only as the Dismal Man, a pale, sharp-dressed stranger seen by many just before the calamity happened. Now, who is this Dismal Man? A prophet? A herald of doom? A warning? As the player descends deeper into Arkham's unraveling world, they must navigate treacherous alliances, uncover long-buried secrets, and confront the terror of the mythos itself. Time is running out, and with each passing day, the grip of madness tightens. Will you uncover the truth before the town is consumed? Or will you too be lost to the abyss? That is the premise. In all honesty though, the game should somehow justify its curse of having no ending, so I suggest you pick it up on sale. This was a masterclass in game development gone wrong that somehow resulted in a flawed masterpiece, in my opinion. But then again, Lovecraft books hardly contain happy endings, so should we be so surprised if this game doesn't have any? Going back to my parallel with tabletop Lovecraftian games, imagine, if you will, a D&D session where players are all fantastically prepared for the journey ahead. They brought their character sheets, snacks, called their wives that they'll be late tonight, it's Friday night, one of them brought a keg of beer, and then DM just falls asleep right before you enter the final chamber. That's how the whole affair feels like. So here we are, at the end, much like the game itself. Except I actually have something to say, unlike those Turkish madmen who ran out of Kickstarter money. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Recommending Stygian feels like recommending a beautiful sculpture that's missing its head. You'll spend hours immersed in a period-appropriate dialogue, losing your sanity to the most mechanically satisfying way possible, making meaningful choices that actually fucking matter, and then nothing. The developers literally packed up their pencils and went to smoke some shisha. The ending isn't bad. It doesn't exist. But you know what? I've played dozens of complete games that feel more unfinished than this one. Games that technically have endings but leave you feeling hollow because they never understood what they were trying to be. Stygian knows exactly what it is. A love letter to Lovecraft written by people who actually understand the cosmic horror isn't about jump scares. It's about dread, atmosphere, and the slow unraveling of your protagonist's mind. Is it frustrating? Absolutely. Will you feel cheated? Probably. Should you still play it? Yes, but only if you can accept that sometimes the journey really is more important than the destination. Wait for a sale, lower your expectations about closure, and prepare yourself for one of the most authentic Lovecraftian experiences in gaming. Even if it does end like someone pulled the plug on your D&D sesh right before the final boss fight. In a twisted way, maybe the abrupt non-ending is the most Lovecraftian thing about it. After all, when you stare into the abyss of forbidden knowledge, the abyss doesn't owe you a satisfying conclusion. It just stares back. Thanks for watching.